The last lesson is a first person narrative whose speaker is a little boy named Franz. The boy was a resident of Alsace-Lorraine district of France that had lately been occupied by the Prussians. The story began one fine morning when little Franz was hurrying off to school. He was quite scared as the French teacher M. Hamel was supposed to question the students on participle. Franz didn't learn his lesson. With great effort, Franz resisted the temptation to bunk his class and decided to go to school. While going to school, he saw a crowd gathered around the bulletin board, the medium through which all of the bad news had reached Alsace. Lost battles, droughts, and the orders of the commanding officers. Franz reached late that day to school, so he planned to quietly slip into his bench without attracting the attention of M. Hammer. However, to his surprise, he found that the school was as silent as on Sunday morning. Frightened and ashamed, he opened the door and entered the class. But M. Hamel was rather kind towards him and didn't reproach him for being late. Franz went to his desk and noticed that the teacher had put on a green coat, a frilled shirt, and his black silk cap, usually worn on special occasions like award ceremonies and inspection. To his surprise, he also saw the residents of his village all huddled up in the back benches. He saw old Hauser, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and many others, all seated with a solemn look on their faces. When M. Hamel announced that the day was the last lesson that he would be giving to them, and that the new teacher would be arriving the next day from Berlin to teach German, Franz was terribly shocked. It finally dawned on him what the bulletin on the town hall meant. He regretted at not having taken his French lessons seriously. This was going to be his last lesson, and he didn't even know how to write. He also felt sad for M. Hammer, a man who had given 40 years of service to the place and who was being told to leave it forever. He now understood the sorrow of the village folks at not having taken their language seriously either. The recitation of lessons began, and M. Hamel asked little Franz to recite the rules of participle. To his great embarrassment, he fumbled and was completely lost. The teacher didn't scold him but reveled with sorrow that the French people had always put off learning till the next day. The teacher also blamed himself and the parents for neglecting their own mother tongue. He then went on to describe the beauty of the French language, stated that it was the most beautiful, most logical language in the world, and that the people must always be able to guard the language and never forget it. He then began teaching grammar lesson. Franz listened attentively and understood it all. The grammar lesson was followed by the writing session. Everybody started writing. There was pin drop silence in the class. Once some beetles flew in, but nobody paid attention to them, not even the little kids. The cooing of the pigeons on the roof made Franz wonder whether the Germans could make the birds sing in their language as well. The writing lesson was followed by the babies chanting their ba, bee, boo, etc. Even old Hauser participated in their recital with tears in his eyes. Then the clock struck 12, and at the same time the Prussians sounded the trumpet. M. Hamel tried to say something, but he was overwhelmed with emotion. Something choked him. He could not speak. He stopped and started scribbling on the blackboard with large letters. Vive la France. That means long live France. Here the story comes to an end. Now the analysis of the story. You can see that the story has been narrated from the perspective of a little boy. I think he represents the future of France and the French language, the failure of teachers and parents who did not do enough to inculcate the love of language in the new generation. However, everything is not lost. The way the child remembers his last lesson is a sign of hope. A serious issue has been described in the story in an innocent manner. Actually, sharing of thoughts frankly with the teacher endears the child to the readers. And of course, the story speaks of how one's language is linked to one's identity. The story also demonstrates how the linguistic chauvinism of one race can lead to the enslavement of another, and what we as individuals can do to overcome such a challenge. That's all. Thank you. Have a nice day.